So hi, my name is Mira Belenke. I want to thank everyone here for all the hard work you guys are doing to get the school year off on the right foot. Thank you so much for that. So I want to start by reading off to you from a first day of school survey that the 6th grade middle school teacher is going to be giving to all his students. So it starts off pretty innocuously. What is your birth name, legal name? What name should I call you? Then question 4, what pronouns I should use for you? And here's where it gets troubling. Question 5, where should I use these pronouns? Check all that apply. With the whole class, communicating with home, communicating with your teachers. How can a mom or dad trust a teacher like this? Seriously, if you do something like this, it's gonna come out, and then what? So when this is happening in other towns like Ludlow, Massachusetts, the entire administration had to resign. The principal, she's on her 3rd school in 3 years because parents don't trust her. So we really don't want things like that happening here. There's actually a law called the Federal Protection of Pupils' Rights Act, which forbids teachers from giving surveys with personal questions like mental health, sexuality, gender identity, without obtaining parental consent. And consent means safety for everyone. So a lot of districts are adopting a policy which requires the principal, who is going to be taking responsibility for damage control, to review every single survey and check for PPRA questions. And if there are any, he notifies parents, obtains consent, makes sure that everyone was okay, the law is followed, and everyone is safe. So I really suggest the school committee adopts a policy like that here in Sharon. We really need to establish a community of trust, of safety, and have a positive homeschool relationship. Thank you very much.
So on the June 21st school committee meeting, one of the meeting attendees emphatically stated that we must do better. And I couldn't agree more. We must do better at letting children be children, for one, and eventually learn to distinguish between reality and fantasy. I say eventually because there is a time when it's only natural for children to exist in their own imagination, and that period of growth does not need to be interfered with. But I mean, grades 2 and up, this kind of fades away, I believe, at least from what I observed. And we must do better at teaching them to harness the powers of imagination for the betterment of themselves and our world. And we must do better at showing them that betterment is not some arbitrary construct reflective of the latest worldly fad, but a constant striving towards the timeless virtues, like ideals of courage, perseverance, patience, truth, and tolerance. And we must do better at showing them the value of delayed gratification. We must do better at protecting their natural development of who they're born as into what they're destined to naturally become as adults without any weird interferences. And we must do better maintain, helping them maintain their purity and not pollute their minds with some ill-begotten fantasies of our own perverse and degenerate natures. And that is all. And thank you for your time.
I've been a Sharon resident for over 50 years, a Sharon High School graduate, a parent of 4 Sharon school students, and a grandfather to young children in our town soon to start the schools. I'm aghast at the rapid deterioration of our schools. Academics have been cast aside to make room for divisive social and political wedge issues. I personally know a number of families whose children have been harmed. A student broke down in tears because her teacher assigned reading of pornographic material and writing about it. Another child was forced to learn a bizarre artificial gender-free version of the language which the family speaks at home. A teacher forced 3 elementary students to stay in a gender affirmation activity that made them uncomfortable. They asked to leave twice. The 3 R's have been discarded to make room for the 3 C's: confusion, concealment, chaos. Confusion is exemplified by Goal 5 of the elementary curriculum, which teaches that kindergarten girls can choose to be boys and kindergarten boys can choose to be girls. Concealment is evidenced by the survey that Mira mentioned earlier tonight, which invites students to conspire with teachers and administrators to conceal their choice of pronouns from their parents. chaos is inflicted on the families of these children. These gender and sexuality lessons are not confined to identified sex education units, but are distributed into every aspect of every subject. This makes the opt-out procedures an impossible joke on the parents. Our schools are harming our children. This school committee must declare an immediate and complete moratorium on sexual and gender topics outside of the identified sex education classes.
Let me tell you about an incident that happened last year here in Sharon. It was just alluded to. Out of respect for the family, I will not disclose which grade or school or any names, but a trans student went to their younger sibling's classroom as a mystery reader and proceeded to read a book about being transgendered. A couple of students within this classroom expressed their discomfort to their teacher and were told to sit back down because she didn't want to have to send them to the principal's office. This is a perfect example of the chaos created by this social engineering. Here we have a trans student completely convinced that they were born wrong, who is bravely putting themselves out there in front of other kids. Then we have a couple of kids whose deep religious and cultural upbringing is so in conflict that they seek out the adult in the room for support. I'm uncomfortable. I feel unsafe. This is exactly the kind of brave self-advocacy we want to cultivate. Yet these tiny children are told to basically sit down and shut up or face the consequences. Is that the message we want to send? And what about the rest of the class? What are the social consequences for the kids who are now exposed to this spontaneous moral dilemma? Their natural instinct, of course, is to rally around their friends who are now divided into two camps of trans advocates versus religious fundamentalist bigots. And what about the teacher? It's her job to deprogram another person's child who is raised with a set of beliefs incongruent with a political agenda. She's tasked with creating a safe space, but safe space for whom? Where do these small children fall on the hierarchy of oppression? Because someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. That's how hierarchy works. So I'll close with this. If this is the goal of diversity, equity, and inclusion, then we need to seriously go back to the drawing board. To intimidate, silence, or punish children whose religious orthodoxy does not align with Sharon's progressive dogma is wrong. No adult in the school has the right to hijack the belief system of someone else's kid. Goal 5 needs to be eliminated completely. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Nadia Ahmed. I want to share my concerns over exposing young children to gender identity and LGBTQ-friendly content in elementary schools. I respect everyone's right to choose what they want to do or how they want to be identified. Similarly, I expect that my right to follow my religion and teach it to my children should also be respected. All Abrahamic traditions, including Islam, do not allow all practices of homosexuality. No one is forced to follow Islam and its practices. Likewise, Muslims and their children should not be forced to digest LGBTQ content, especially at such a young age. When my kids are exposed to the LGBTQ-related content in elementary schools, it puts our choice of following our religion and teaching it to our children in jeopardy. Therefore, I respect the school committee to take appropriate actions to ensure that everyone's rights are respected and protected. Thank you.